Hey there, welcome to the Signature Self Show. So, this actually is a reboot of my what used to be Mondays with Mariah. And the reason that I'm doing this reboot is because one, I just love meeting people, and I've been meeting people and they're amazing. I've been hearing their stories, and every time I hear their story, I've been aching to share them with you guys. And um, Mondays with Mariah was fun. I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't fitting with everything that I was doing and all the basically where I was going. And so I felt like I had these two different ships that were sailing in two very different directions. And I felt like I really needed to bring them together. So the Signature Self Show just made more sense. Now I'm super excited. So here is what we're going to talk about in the Signature Self Show. So we are going to talk about having a more fun, fantastic, and fulfilling life by dumping the junk, which is getting rid of exhaustive practices. And I wish I brought it in here, but truly it's like I could fan out a deck of cards for you. And we have so many exhaustive practices, such as the shoulds, comparison, judgment, unforgiveness. Did you guys know forgiving is for you, not for the person that you're forgiving? And sometimes we actually have to forgive ourselves too. There's so many of them. I can't even go over all of them just in one sitting. So we will be going over those from time to time. I'll be bringing people in who will talk about that. And they'll talk about this maybe specifically, or they'll talk about all three topics. The second topic is discovering you. And this is all about giving yourself full permission to be who you're meant to be, to live your full purpose. Can you imagine a world where women are living up to their full purpose, and men too? I love, love, love just seeing people be able to live in their full purpose. To me, I feel like if we all rise together, that is amazing. And then finally, the third topic is designing your life. So once you've dumped the junk, you're no longer carrying this trash, basically a garbage truck with you wherever you go. So that's really heavy. Yeah, you can move, but it's difficult. And then once, it's never gone. So getting help, all that stuff that we'll be talking about for dumping that junk, it will get lighter. So instead of pulling a dump truck, it'll be more like you're pulling a Mini Cooper. I'm actually going to be having a picture session with that exact theme in the Gals publication, hopefully next month. We're working on that collaboration right now. So you'll be able to actually have a visual of that. So once you've dumped the junk, once you've really discovered who you are, I've been working on this with a few people recently as it pertains just to the love languages. And there are some love languages that are really difficult. One is gifts. Gifts can actually be really funky because you feel guilt and shame for wanting gifts. You also feel like you're materialistic, you're selfish. It can be a really hard love language to have. I know because I've learned a lot about myself through it. But once you give yourself permission to be that and you live in it and you grow in it, it kind of develops and changes. You go from being more like the little kid needing gifts, and that can feel kind of selfish because when we grow up, we kind of learn more to, maybe not need gifts all the time, which is kind of funny. It's just one of those funny things. Like, why? Why do we stop thinking that we should want gifts? Because that's what we're taught. But you can actually start to learn how to communicate that a little bit differently. So maybe for me, this can be both a blessing and a curse, but all 5 gifts can be looked at, or all 5 languages can be looked at as a gift. You can gift me quality time. And that's actually one of my preferred gifts now because I don't need stuff anymore. Like when I needed stuff, I wanted stuff. Like when we were broke and didn't have much and my pans were breaking and my whole house was torn apart, I had holes on my couch, I wanted stuff. But now I really don't need anything. And so that gift love language can look very different. the gift of somebody cleaning for me would be amazing. That would be my favorite gift right now. So, but once you start allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to say, you know what, this is who I am. And it actually works in all the layers of my life. So I learned that in order for me to hit goals or create habits or whatever you want to call it, I needed a reward. I just did. And I felt guilty and selfish about that for such a long time. But once I just acknowledged it and said, you know what, it doesn't have to be big. I just need something. Even the gift of accolades sometimes, like putting it out there for people to acknowledge and say, yay, good job, you're doing awesome. Sometimes that was enough of a gift for me to move on. And like when we were getting out of debt, for example, I needed that. And I told my husband, I need us to celebrate somehow. It doesn't have to be huge. At first we were celebrating with like going to a restaurant and to a movie. And then we're like, wait a minute, we're paying off debt. It's kind of like when, you know, you're losing weight, you shouldn't just make your reward like a food. Well, we were making our reward really expensive. So we were like, okay, well, would it still do the same thing if we, you know, maybe got takeout and brought it home and watched a movie that we rented? And that actually worked. So I allow myself to be who I am. Once we've done that, dump the junk, discover who you are, and give yourself permission, you can start to design your ideal life. You can do it when you haven't worked on those two, but I can tell you, it's gonna be like you're pulling that dump truck. Think of yourself on a racetrack. You might be able to move with that dump truck, but it's going to be hard. It's going to take forever. You're going to constantly be exhausted. You're going to feel like you can't do it, and you might still move forward, but it's going to be hard. We want to get you to that point where it's more like you're pulling a mini coupe, because let's face it, things like my depression, for example, are never going to go away. They're always going to be there. In fact, recognizing them for what they truly are is really important, because it's easy to say, oh, I have low energy. In fact, I'm going to tell you, this was my story this December, this winter. This was my story. I knew that I had low energy. I was just exhausted, and I thought, okay, it's just because I need a break. Vacation's coming. I'm going to fully rest in that time. But it wasn't just that. All the things that brought me joy were not bringing me joy. They were exhausting me. Being around friends usually brings me joy. Being around people that I love usually brings me joy. Reading, you know, some of those things were not working for me. And I kept calling it, oh, I've got low energy. But I was talking with my daughter about it, and I was telling her, you know, I even know what I need to do, but I don't want to do it. And she, in her beautiful 20-year-old wisdom, looked at me and said, Mom, that's probably your depression. And actually, she didn't say probably. Mom, that's your depression. You need to like realize that you're worse in the winter. It's going to come back. And I tell you, it kicked me in the face, just like it did when I first discovered that I had depression, because for some reason I had it in my head that I'm going to conquer this, which I have, but it doesn't mean conquering it makes it go away. It will always be there lurking for me to not pay attention. It will always be ready for me to not be vigilant. And so calling it what it was made all the difference. It helped me so much. Instead of just saying, oh, I have low energy, recognizing it for what it was helped me to attack it properly Instead of having my tiny little shield of like, okay, I'm going to attack this low energy, I had my shield and my sword ready to not just be defensive, but to actually attack the dang thing. And so even when I went into my vacation, I fully rested. I fully acknowledged what I needed to help me with that. And I would not have done that if I hadn't recognized it. But that helps me to also know when I'm designing my life plan, like, okay, in the winter, here's some things that I need to do to make sure that I don't allow my depression, my seasonal depression. That's the reason we didn't move to Alaska, because I would not have done well in this weather all the time. But my seasonal depression, I will not allow it to take over. So there's a lot that goes into that, but you can't do it when you're in the muck, right? And we want you to be able to flourish. We want you to be able to say, you know what, this is what I want in my life. I want to travel. Well, if your finances are crappy, that's going to be tough, right? What about, you know, I want a house. Okay, kind of similar thing. Or maybe you just want to volunteer somewhere. Well, if you're working, you know, 80 to 100 hours a week, you're a workaholic, that's not going to work, right? You need to free some of your time. So all of it plays together. The dumping the junk, discovering you, and designing your life are three components that work together. It's a very holistic way to look at your lifestyle planning. And then there's other things like self-care. When we design our life, we've got to put self-care in there. This is, I know it's a somewhat new movement, but I love what I'm seeing with it. Women recognizing that, hey, I really cannot give to my spouse or my family or my whatever volunteer ministry things that I do, outreaches, my work, my friends, all of these people, I am not filled up myself. So creating those lists of self-care and things that bring you joy are so important. So I wanted to start with just giving you kind of an overflow and the whole purpose of all of these things, living a more fun, fantastic, fulfilling lifestyle by dumping the junk, discovering you, and designing your life is so that you can show up as your most confident, creative, and courageous self. Doesn't that sound amazing? Don't you want to live that kind of life? I know I do. And my own self-love journey is the one that I'm sharing with you guys. And then I'm going to share other experts on these things as well. There's so many things that go into this. I'm super duper excited. I've already got a fun lineup of people that I'm going to be sharing with you. And I hope that you'll just take one actionable item each week and apply it to your life. And if you just did that, you are going to live a life that is just so fun and fantastic and fulfilling. All right, guys. So I am super excited about what we have going on. I love, love, love any questions that you guys have. Feel free to send those to mariahyoung@gmail.com or reach out to me on Facebook. Send me a personal message. I would love to get those questions so that I can answer those for you. I think that's all I have for you today. So, all right, until next time, let me just leave you with this. You are a diamond. You have a huge purpose. May everyone you meet be blessed by you. Bye.